Wintertime is the perfect time of year to tune up all of your beekeeping equipment or build new equipment that you're planning on using for the spring. And today I brought in my top bar beehive that I had in my yard for a couple seasons now. I had an unsuccessful package installation. I kind of goofed up something. Here's what I did wrong. I had a follower board inside the top bar hive, and at the bottom of my hive I was using a screen bottom board, and there was just a little gap, not maybe even a quarter inch underneath this follower board, and most of the package, at least the worker bees, started to migrate over into the section of the hive where there wasn't any feeders or anything, and they just couldn't figure out how to get back to the mother queen and the rest of the bees. So a lot of them died. Eventually that package just got so weak it just kind of fizzled out. So I'm going to tune all the equipment up this year. I'm going to do something with the top bars just to make sure I have straight comb. So I wanted to shoot this video for all my top bar friends, because a lot of you probably see my bee yard and you see all these Langstroth hives, and I always talk about, you know, how I enjoy using Langstroth with foundationless frames. But I'll tell you what, top bars are really cool, and they're just a little bit more complex to work. But if you're okay with that idea, hey, you know, do it, because it's a really cool way to do natural beekeeping. And one of the things I just wanted to share with you today was a little tip on making sure that all the comb in your top bar hive is nice and straight. And I did something last year that it was a okay idea, I guess, but it didn't really work out. I cut a groove down the length of all my top bars with the table saw, and then I melted some wax and I put some starter strips in there. That was fine until it got hot, and it gets hot here in Georgia. And then what happened was all that starter strips started to get real wavy. And the problem with that is when your bees start to build off of that starter strip, if it isn't straight, they're going to draw it just the way they have it laid out for them. So that was all wavy and crooked, and that will just ripple down the whole length of your hive, and it actually gets worse as they progress along. So trust me when I tell you, you don't want that. Straight comb makes more straight comb, and that's what you want. So today what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip all my top bars over, and I'm going to rip a new strip down the center, a little notch, because I still have wax on the other side. So I figure, well, okay, no sense in throwing them away. They're still perfectly cut. And what I'll do is I'll just measure it out, and I've got some scrap wood that's about as thin as a paint stick, and I'm just going to drop that into the notch that I cut, and I'm going to glue that in, and they can use that as a nice starter guide. It's not going to be wax, but they'll use it if it's wood, and that'll be just fine for the bees. And it's very similar to what I do with my frames. If I got a frame that needs a piece of foundation, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just break the cleat bar and turn it sideways and staple it in, and that works great too. Now that's not my idea. Someone else already thought of that. I just said, hey, that works, and I'm just sharing it with you. So if you want to give that a whirl, go ahead. But for top bar, all I did was just rip down some 3/4 inch lumber. And what's cool about top bar hives is you can use all the scraps you can find and build one of these things. And if I don't get rid of some of my scraps, eventually I think they're going to do a hoarder's show on me because of all the scrap wood I've got in here. I'll show you some of that in just a minute. So eventually you just got to say, okay, well, how much am I going to keep and actually use? And then the rest goes into the wood stove or campfire pits. And that way the hoarders program doesn't come over and try to do an intervention for you. So over here you can see here's my lumber, and that's Buddy out there sounding off. But here's all my lumber I've got, and look at all that. That's just about 2 inches wide, and that stuff makes some pretty good beekeeping equipment. So I kind of keep that handy, and that's as far as I go. I said I'm not going to block the window. I could have a stack probably twice as high, but I want light in the barn. So anyway, who's making all that racket out here? There he is. There's the noisemaker. That's Buddy. And they crow any time of day. It ain't morning here. It's about 2 in the afternoon or something like that, 1 or 2 in the afternoon. So here's our top bar set up. Here's the bars. And he knows I'm shooting a video, that's why he's here. So I just made a mark right here. That's the center. And I'm just gonna rip my table saw, rip this across the table saw, cut my notch. So here is the top bar after I just ripped it on the saw, and you can see I've got the width of the blade, so I guess that's maybe a little less than 1/8 of an inch. That's ripped down the center, and then I've got another piece of scrap wood that I've hoarded away, but it's perfect for this project because it'll fit right in this notch or groove that I cut here, and you see how that goes right in there? And so now all I got to do is just, trim this side off, trim it right here, and I've got a piece that's a nice piece of comb guide on my top bar. And I'll just do them all like that and reinstall those back into my hive, and I'll be ready for next spring. This is a nice little tip because a lot of folks, I see them going through the trouble of trying to create a wedge style top bar guide, but this is a comb guide that's real easy to do. You don't have to do any kind of fancy cuts. Everything is just a straight cut on the table saw, and it works pretty good. So I hope this works for you. Now here's just one more tip I want to leave with you today. When it comes to top bar hives, you're going to have a section of the hive that's designated for brood nest. So I've got 16 of my top bars all designated for brood nest. They're a little bit thinner than my bars that I've got for honey. But in order for me to identify those quickly, I'm just going to put a little bit of paint on my brood nest bars, so I don't have to worry about getting them mixed up. Because they're so close in size, it's a little difficult to tell. So I'm just going to put a little paint on my brood nest bars only. So this way they're marked off and I don't have to worry about getting them confused.